You know, I've been delivering this message for Memorial Day service for 20 plus years. In case you haven't noticed it, like the pattern. So you probably have heard me say all kinds of things and talk about all kinds of different events and reflections and all that stuff. I've been also doing memorial services up at Catawba Memorial Park for Police Memorial Week. That's been going on since 2010. In fact, a couple of years ago, the FOP got a couple of chaplains, and the president of the FOP said, "Well, Anton, I guess you need a break." I'm like, "You just don't want to hear me preach anymore, right?" "That's not what we said." I'm like, "Okay." I have to give them a hard time, you know, retired highway patrol, they're so full of themselves. So instead of kind of preaching at, you know, again, I want to kind of reflect together, because this is a very unique holiday, and this is a very unique service, because it's not, as you know, it's not a church holiday, right? It's not listed anywhere on the lectionary readings or anything like that. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday at the Sunday school class, how probably St. John's is one of the unique churches that does it on Memorial Day night. We kind of acknowledge it on Sunday in the prayer of the church. But outside of that, this is a very unique choice to do it like that. So you tell me, what is it that you celebrate? Not we, but you celebrate on this day. Freedom? Okay. And how so? Is this the 4th of July? Now, how is it different from the 4th of July?
Remember those who fought for our freedom.
Yeah, so it's more specific, right? We remember those who what?
Fought for our freedom.
Fought for our freedom and died. So this is a unique holiday, right? It's not necessarily, when do we remember the ones who fought or who served? Veterans Day in the fall, and we'll certainly do that. And it's always enjoyable to have the veterans stand up and during the service and acknowledge them. But this is a very specific holiday. Again, it's celebrating those who fought and died. All right? Now, what is an appropriate, what do you think is how do you celebrate that? And the reason I'm asking is because with veterans, you can have veterans, right? You can thank them. Now with those who died, who do you acknowledge?
Well, it becomes a very personal day, Memorial Day.
Okay, well for you, right?
For me, especially with my daughter Claudia and my sister-in-law Jan.
Yes, but so I had you in mind. Anybody else? Because as you know, Denisha lost her husband in the line of duty. Anybody else that lost?
I lost a very good friend I grew up with.
So yeah, it could be something that you grew up with, somebody you grew up with, right?
Well, my uncle passed away in World War II, but before I was born, but he was very close to my mother.
Okay, somebody who's close to your mom,
Right.
and you have some kind of connection.
Right. So on this particular day,
Yeah,
I think we should set aside time for reflection
reflection.
and not celebration.
Uh-huh.
You know, let's remember.
Remember.
them, you know.
Yeah, so remember. Is that what would you say that, Denisha?
Yeah.
Just kind of remember. Because again, have you ever been to like a memorial service for firefighters or police officers? Not funeral service, but the yearly services that they do. What do they do there? How do they remember the fallen?
Do they call out their names?
They call out their names. So if you go to Catawba Memorial Park and go to the Peace Officer Memorial, there's going to be names of the peace officers deputies and so forth, highway patrolmen, that died in the line of duty. So every May, we get up there and we call those names out. And then there's like a the pinning of a little flower, to the wreath. What is it called? Pinning of the wreath? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, they put little flowers, stick flowers into the wreath. And it's meaningful, especially if there's family, right? And so it's a kind of call them out. I don't know. So how many? I tried to look up how many veterans are buried at the cemetery. Well, the website says 85, but doesn't mean that they died in the line of duty, right?
No. Right.
Yeah. So we don't even know how many of them died in the line of duty, do we? Does anybody know that? Yeah. I mean, so it would be interesting and kind of appropriate to remember them by name, right? That's how you remember.
Quite a few of the Civil War veterans died.
Yeah, because there's some of them were moved, zoomed, or whatever you call it.
Well, a lot of them, the memorials here with a stone.
That's really? I thought it was some kind of remains. That. No.
I've got relatives from Gettysburg.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So that's a time to. That's a means to remember. But yeah, so that's a.
We've got veterans from the Revolutionary War, 1812, of course, the Civil War. I don't know about the Spanish American. I think we had some that served then. Of course, the First World War, Second World War, Korea, Vietnam.
Yeah. So they served, right? But
And
yeah.
The latest, Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. Yeah. Right. So remember, I mean, that's all we can do. I know that sometimes, again, it's hard, and we want to kind of like at the same time acknowledge current people, men and women who served in the military, right? And we remember the veterans. But this is very specific. It's a very unique holiday like that. The scriptures that we read, the second one, where Jesus says, blessed are the what? The peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God, children of God, depending on the translation. Now, that's a part of what? A series that we call what? Beatitudes. And so the rest of the Beatitudes are, who remembers the rest of the Beatitudes? Blessed are those who mourn, meek, hunger and thirst for righteousness, right? Were persecuted. And then there's this kind of, in the middle of it, towards the end, really, blessed are the peacemakers. And it's very interesting that, and when we think about peacemakers, what do you think about? Or who do you think about?
Law enforcement.
Huh?
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement and military. So it's like smack in the middle of all this meek and humble and righteous. Here comes this peacemaker. One of the things I heard, one of the ways to understand it, is that peacemakers are those who stand in between. And that's how I'm kind of borrowing it from one of my brothers, Brian Carell. So if you see him, tell him that our pastor is going crazy copying Baptist preachers. But he'll probably laugh at it because we laugh at each other all the time. But he used that in his reflection. Peacemakers stand between what?
Good and evil.
Between good and evil. So, between you, right, and death. And in that process, they're often called to do what? In order to protect your life, they die. And you can see that, obviously, who died for you? Who's the... Jesus is the one who stood between your death and the evil one, right? Who was coming after you. That was his plan from the very beginning, from the Garden of Eden. From the Garden of Eden. He is the one who stood between you and death. And he took your death upon himself. At the same time, the men and the women whom we celebrate and remember tonight, what did they do? They stood between so that you could live. And they gave up their lives. What does it mean that they gave up their lives? What did they give up?
Give up everything they are and everything they're going to be.
Yeah, their future. Sometimes you think about, well, he gave up his last breath, right? Well, he's done breathing. Or he gave up his life, okay, he's dead. No, it means that they gave up seeing their kids and grandkids, right? Their wives and future and retirement and all those things. The life that was ahead of them, that's what they gave up. They didn't just give up, breathing and heart beating. They give up what you and I get to keep. And that's what we remember tonight. And again, it's a picture of Jesus. They're following Jesus. They're small. You know how Luther calls us to be little Jesuses? This is like the ultimate little Jesus, where you give up your life so that others can live. So remember that and reflect on that.